A middle-aged pastor, a bathroom mirror, and a selfie that never should have been sent. What if I told you that a Canadian revivalist leader, celebrated for leading worship gatherings and preaching holiness, was caught with his pants down, literally? This is the story of Pastor Art Lucier of Kelowna Harvest Church in British Columbia. A man once revered as a spiritual father, now at the center of one of the most disturbing Church 2 scandals in recent memory. Allegations of grooming, crude photos, a so-called prank that turned into public disgrace, and a ministry board that, instead of seeking truth, reinstated him back into leadership, despite the cries of whistleblowers and victims. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how a selfie of a pastor's bare backside spiraled into a movement for accountability in the Canadian church. Welcome back, anointed ones. This is not gossip. This is not a rumor. This is documented. And it raises a sobering question. What happens when the shepherds of the flock become wolves in the fold? In December of 2022, Jane Doe, a 60-year-old former volunteer for Lucier's ministry, received a photo that left her stunned. It wasn't a Bible verse. It wasn't encouragement. It wasn't anything remotely pastoral. Instead, it was a bathroom selfie. A man in a black sweatshirt branded with a major Canadian revival ministry. Pants pulled down, his bare backside fully exposed in the mirror. The face visible on the left side? Allegedly none other than Pastor Art Lucier. Doe, who had volunteered for Lucier's Battle for Canada revival ministry, immediately recognized him. And she says the photo wasn't an accident. It was one of hundreds of inappropriate memes, crude jokes, and late-night calls that became part of a disturbing pattern of grooming. Doe had volunteered with Lucier since 2018, pouring hours into his ministry. By 2020, their communication became frequent. Multiple phone calls a day, disappearing messages, crude memes, and selfies. According to Doe, from 2020 to 2022, Lucier would share personal details, such as his grief over the death of his daughter from an earlier relationship than his current marriage. "That was the biggest thing that drew me in," Doe said. At first, she rationalized it. She thought she was his buddy. But she later realized she was being groomed. The long conversations were 2 to 3 times a day. Using an app where his messages would disappear shortly after he sent them, she said he sent oddly intimate photos. They ranged from pictures of himself in a steamy shower to crude memes of women's private parts. One of those photos was the pants-down selfie. She can't remember now why, but Doe said that she made a screenshot of it on December 6, 2022, and filed it away. Lucier even encouraged her to meet him privately while he was traveling. She declined. He continued to call her and send her messages, but by that summer, he began harshly criticizing her work while not clarifying her duties. That's when it became evident she was no longer his favorite. Sometime in 2023, Doe came across the forgotten photo of Lucier's rear end on an old tablet. It was the only photo of his she'd kept. She decided not to delete it. In her mind, she wondered if he was doing this to other women and thought the photo might come in handy to help somebody someday. In 2024, she realized the gravity of Lucier sending her the photo. "I finally sat back and thought, what if my husband was doing this?" she said. She showed it to her husband, who, having trusted Lucier, was outraged. TRR ran the photo through siteengine.com and Fake Image Detector, which analyzes a photo's error level to see if someone has photoshopped or manipulated the photo. The results showed no manipulation. When the Roy's report confronted Lucier, he didn't deny sending the photo. Instead, he waved it off as a prank and even suggested it was photoshopped. "There's so much crap out there," Lucier said. "It's hard to keep up." But behind closed doors, in a recorded oversight committee meeting, he allegedly admitted sending inappropriate photos to Doe. So which is it? A prank? A fake? Or an admission of guilt behind the scenes? In March 2025, audio leaked from a private oversight meeting. In it, committee member Casey Brost actually excused the butt selfie as cultural behavior from Lucier's past. He claimed in Lucier's old Kitimat church, people mooned each other as a joke. He called the selfie egregious, but not sexualized to the extent of grooming. Think about that. A middle-aged pastor sends a pants-down selfie to a female volunteer, and the official response is, "It was just like a brother teasing a sister." The damage control was shocking. Instead of protecting the victim, the committee chose to protect the pastor. Doe had volunteered with Lucier since 2018, pouring hours into his ministry. By 2020, their communication became frequent. Multiple phone calls a day, disappearing messages, crude memes, and selfies. At first, she rationalized it. She thought she was his buddy, but she later realized she was being groomed. Her husband confirmed the pattern. Friends noticed the secrecy. And when she finally rediscovered that screenshot of the pants-down photo in 2023, she kept it, not out of revenge, but because she thought, if he's doing this to me, he may be doing it to others. And one day, this might help someone. This scandal isn't an isolated event. Lucier is already facing lawsuits in Canadian civil court from women who allege he SA'd them when they were foster children, starting as young as age 11. These allegations stretch back to 2001 when he pastored in Kitimat and reportedly continued until 2016. Other women have accused him of unwanted kisses, inappropriate behavior, and manipulation. And yet, despite these serious claims, Lucier has remained in ministry, often protected by boards, committees, and revivalist networks. Earlier this year, Lucier admitted to past sins, but blamed the timing of the exposure on Satan. Then, in a fiery Facebook Live, he lashed out at whistleblowers and journalists. He called one woman a witch. He called Julie of the Roy's report a dirty rag. And he went as far as to say, the only whistleblower in the Bible is Satan. Instead of humility, we saw arrogance. Instead of repentance, we saw blame shifting. Here's where the story takes a disturbing twist. Despite the allegations, despite the petitions for accountability, despite the growing outcry, Harvest Ministries International announced they were reinstating Art Lucier as of September 1st, 2025. The ministry claimed to have conducted a further review and declared Lucier fit to lead again. To many, this looked less like restoration and more like an institutional cover-up. Here is the statement. Statement for public release. Harvest Ministries International, HMI, / Kelowna Harvest Church, KHC. August 2025. To the family and friends of Kelowna Harvest Church and Harvest Ministries International, approximately 1 year ago, an oversight committee was established to review allegations that had surfaced regarding Art Lucier. The committee dedicated significant time and effort to thoroughly examine these concerns, including reviewing communications and engaging with individuals who came forward with information both in support of and in opposition to Art and Heather Lucier. Throughout this process, Art and Heather demonstrated openness and cooperation, responding to all inquiries and working with leadership whenever requested. In May 2025, the Oversight Committee concluded its work, having pursued the matter as far as they felt was reasonably possible. Their findings and recommendations were presented to the HMI Board for further consideration. Earlier, in April 2025, Art Lucier voluntarily stepped back from public ministry, including pulpit responsibilities, in light of the ongoing allegations. HMI released a public statement at that time in support of this decision, with a commitment to revisit the matter at the end of the summer. After further review, the HMI Board, in consultation with the pastoral leadership of Kelowna Harvest Church and several trusted apostolic advisors and leaders who provide counsel to both HMI and KHC, have reached a unanimous decision to invite Art Lucier to resume his leadership role within HMI and Kelowna Harvest Church, effective September 1st, 2025. This includes returning to public ministry such as preaching and teaching. Art Lucier has accepted this invitation. We acknowledge that an ongoing civil lawsuit is currently involving Art Lucier and HMI. While the legal process may take time to resolve, HMI reaffirms its commitment to due process and expresses confidence in a just outcome. At this time, we will not comment further on the legal proceedings. The HMI Board and the leadership of Kelowna Harvest Church would like to extend heartfelt gratitude to our church family and extended community for your continued support and prayers. We remain committed to our mission and calling, and we look forward with hope and unity as we continue the work entrusted to us. Sincerely, the HMI Board. Leadership of Kelowna Harvest Church. Survivors and whistleblowers refused to stay silent. They launched petitions with over 1,000 signatures calling for a third-party investigation. They wrote open letters. They started Facebook groups to share their stories. Jane Doe's husband penned a furious letter to Lucier's oversight committee. Art was grooming my wife at a time when we were struggling. This has broken us to our core. Don't lie, Art. We know the truth. The voices of ordinary Christians were demanding the accountability that leaders were refusing to deliver. At the heart of this scandal is not just a bathroom selfie. It's a pattern of abuse, denial, and institutional failure. A pastor who was supposed to be a shepherd instead acted like a predator. Oversight leaders who were supposed to protect the flock instead protected their friend. And a ministry that should have pursued truth and repentance chose damage control. The Bible warns us, for it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. 1 Peter 4:17. So I'll leave you with this question. When churches excuse sin at the highest level, how can they expect revival to break out among the people? Because revival without repentance is nothing more than a performance.